North Attleboro will soon own the former Fisher College building. The town council, by a vote of 5-0, approved $2,238,750 for the purpose of purchasing the property located at 451 Elm Street. The money will come from ARPA funding the town received from the federal government as a result of COVID-19.
We had originally talked about repurposing Allen Ave for a regional food distribution network and also move some of the town offices and the senior center there. That was the use of the ARPA funds, and we had about 5 million, 5.2 million kind of set aside for that project. As with everything right now, costs started to rise, and we were looking closer to $7 million, $8 million to get that project in. At the same time, we became aware, thanks to Councilor Donovan, of the possibility of the old Fisher College building, 451 Elm Street, going up for sale. We have talked to them about it and have a signed purchase and sale. We have gone through all of the necessary inspection periods. This building is a little over twice the size of Allen Ave. It will allow us to develop, return, lease the Allen Ave property and get that back onto the tax rolls, and at the same time do what we had originally planned with the ARPA money at the much better location at 451 Elm. It is on the MBTA line. It is across from Mason Field. It has an elevator. It has a loading dock for the food. Plenty of space. It comes with a new roof, and it also comes with an existing tenant who we do desire to stay, which will hopefully produce income that will help maintain the building. The Finance Committee, on this final ask of the actual purchase price of $2.23875 million, again passed Finance Committee 5-0. Mr. Borg, anything you'd like to add?
We quickly realized, and you know, as we talked about Tri-County tonight, that literally almost building a new building or taking one and renovating was an expensive endeavor. And when Councilor Donovan brought to us the opportunity to look at a centrally located building that met all of our needs, that we could occupy immediately, it had a tenant in it that we're really looking forward to working with and maintaining that relation with on behalf of the community. We saw this as an opportunity for the town, and at no cost to existing budget taxpayer dollars. Bristol County is on board with this. We were one of the first communities came in and got a unanimous support of what an awesome idea, and I think other towns are still struggling to figure out how to spend their ARPA money. And those are funds that we're going to try and go after if they can't spend it as well. But this is a tremendous opportunity, and I hope that we get your support to proceed this evening.
The primary function of this, and the immediate function based on the investment, is the regional food bank. That's how we're getting the grant and what the money is going to be used for. Excited that Scribble Time is able to stay. Potentially can be a revenue generator for us and maybe allow them to increase some service. I think this is just for so many different reasons that Mr. Simmons explained in terms of what was discussed at the Finance Committee. Just going to be a real, I think, pillar for the town. Take a motion.
I make a motion to approve measure 2024-018 to see if the town council will appropriate the sum of $2,238,750 for the purpose of purchasing the property located at 451 Elm Street, North Attleboro, Mass. As shown on Assessors Map 15, Parcel 131, to be held in the care, custody, and control of the town manager for general municipal purposes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Are there any abstentions? All right, the motion passes 5-0.
Students attending the Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School in 2027 will be in a new building, thanks to voters casting ballots in a special election this past Tuesday. 62% of the 5,365 voters in the 11 communities Tri-County serves supported the request for funding of the $285,992,692 million project. Millis, Seekonk, and Walpole were the only towns opposed to a new facility. Franklin, where the school is located, voted 1,329 in favor with 316 opposed. Medfield was in favor, 188 to 29. Medway had 511 yes votes and only 66 noes. Millis had only 351 in favor and 656 opposed. Norfolk supported the request 540 to 169. North Attleboro had 528 yes votes and 368 noes. Plainville voted 317 in favor with 239 opposed. Seekonk had only 274 yeses and 351 against. Sherborne's totals were 206 to 27 in favor, and Walpole had 663 vote yes and 889 saying no. North Attleboro has the most students attending Tri-County, so the annual cost will be more than the other 10 communities at approximately $3 million a year. Plainville will be on the hook for approximately $1.6 million a year. The topic was addressed when North Attleboro Town Council President Justin Paré and Plainville Select Board Chair Jeff Johnson joined Mike Kirby and me Tuesday night for North TV's live election results show. North Attleboro, of course, is looking at the possibility of expanding and renovating the current high school on Wilson Woody Way, or possibly building a new one.
I don't think it jeopardizes a new or renovated high school. I think we really should think about the size of this. It's $3 million a year. Our operating budget is around $100 million a year right now. That's 3% of our budget. Proposition 2.5 limits the amount taxes can go up by 2.5, right? 2.5 million in this case is pretty easy math, plus new growth. So this is effectively an entire year's worth of 2.5 and new growth. Yeah. So looking at our budget next year, we're basically going into it with a level funded budget. If you assume 2.5 plus new growth, that's going to have an impact. We don't have that much slack in our operating budget, so we're going to have to scrimp and save. And next year, I think, will be a tougher slog for us in the budgeting process. Well, not next year, but when this probably in 25, when 24, 25.
It's going to hit us in fiscal 26, which is 26. The planning we'll do a year from now.
25. So that year will be tough, I think. But we're in a good position in this town, right? We can absorb a $3 million budget hit. We believe it'll be tight, but we can do it without an override or a debt exclusion. So just looking at that, I think coming out of this 2, 3, 4 years, I think we can still do the other projects we have. It just makes it harder.
I want to ask you about how you're going to pay for it, but I want to follow up with Justin first. I was talking to someone over the weekend about this election, and I said the same thing. I think North Attleboro will be able to absorb it. The council and Mike Borg, the town manager, have done a good job of using free cash, where in the past they might have bonded long-term for some capital projects. Mm-hmm. That freed up some money, and the answer to that was, well, instead of trying to free up that money, why didn't they bond for new roof for the MVET school? Why this, that? And I was like, eventually you're going to have to pay for everything.
It's a balance. It's a balance every year. You have to use capital in the most efficient way possible, right? And we cannot neglect our infrastructure. Over the last 5 years in this town, we've made a concerted effort to direct a lot more funds than has been the historical trend towards infrastructure projects. We've leveraged not just free cash, right? We've leveraged a lot of state aid. A lot of the COVID funds, the ARPA money, have been plowed into infrastructure projects. For example, we're just about to finish the purchase of the Fisher College building, which will become a regional food bank, as well as a new senior center. Right, that's leveraging federal dollars to help in our town.
And you also are currently paying rent on the current Council on Aging and Senior Center. So I don't know what that rent is, but that's free. That will be freed up for operating.
It will free up, and it's a small amount of money. It's like $27,000 a year, if my math is correct from a few years back. But it's a math problem, right? Every year, and you have to kind of have a 5-year plan looking forward. We're using free cash. We're freeing up borrowing capacity for these bigger projects. We're gonna borrow again, right? We're gonna borrow for the school. We're gonna have to borrow if we go for the fire station project, right? But it's just a matter of having a plan and marching towards it.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah.
They might be able to absorb it. Plainville, how about you guys?
Well, it's going to be a challenge. We've just spent the last 3 years really recovering from some pretty severe budget cuts we put in a few years ago, and the budget is still tight. So 1.6 million for us is a bigger chunk of our budget than the 3 million for North Attleboro. Speaking only for myself and not for the entire board, I think our goal is going to be to spend the next 3-4 months looking at the cost impacts, figuring out, getting a better handle on where our new growth is going to be for next year as well, and then make some decisions on how much we can absorb in the budget through either new growth increase, the 2.5% tax increase we get, or budget cuts that are surgical and not to the bone, and see what's left. And whatever is left from that, then maybe it's half of it, maybe it's a little less than half of it. We'll probably have to seek a debt exclusion, which may or may not pass. And if it doesn't pass, then we get more serious about the cuts.
Scenes of thieves pillaging stores have been a recurring story on national newscast over the last year. Unfortunately, that story hit home Tuesday night when 2 women and a man entered the Macy's store at Emerald Square Mall, went to the perfume section, and dropped bottles of perfume into bags. WJAR-TV Channel 10 reported the thieves got away with thousands of dollars worth of perfumes and colognes. Police said surveillance video recorded the thieves as they grabbed 25 boxes of fragrances worth about $3,200 off store shelves and slipped out a door. Police said the store manager told them he recognized the 3 people from 2 previous unreported shoplifting incidents. Police said the thieves got into a Nissan Altima with Rhode Island license plates and drove toward Attleboro. Investigators said they don't know the shoplifters' names. The Retailers Association of Massachusetts said it is seeing an increase in thefts, and in many cases, companies tell their employees not to intervene. Quote, somebody that has been hired to work at a cash register should not be interfering with those types of activities. They have been growingly more violent, more confrontational, and more aggressive, spokesman Ryan Kearney said. A meeting to discuss the future of the former Bolter Farm, also known as the Courtois property at 230 Mendon Road in North Attleboro, was attended by dozens of neighbors. The property, a short drive from the Cumberland line, was originally a pig farm and later a sand and gravel facility. Stephen Peterson wrote in Thursday's edition of the Sun Chronicle that the site has a history of waste storage that led to contamination of soil and groundwater. North Attleboro acquired the site in 1998 for back taxes and has taken steps to mitigate potential hazards. Residents addressed their concerns after town officials reported on possibilities.
If money was not an option and we could excavate all of the soils from this site, it would be at least $1.6 million, which isn't feasible. First, we looked at the do-nothing approach. I don't think anybody wants that, because do-nothing means walking away and then let maybe a new owner deal with it. But the good thing is the town does have the funding to do something. So then we looked at targeted remediation. So that would be removing the most contaminated materials from the site. So we are continuing to look at that just to get our arms around what that means. Because when we look at PCBs, we look at PCBs below 50 parts per million and over 50 parts per million. And why we look at that, the cost is actually different. There are some facilities that will not accept PCBs over 50. So our focus has been, okay, if we are going to have a targeted excavation and leave some material behind, we're going to focus on the more heavily contaminated soils. Sorry, the last option was installing a cap, an impermeable cap. So a cap that would be safe, it would mitigate risk, there would be no penetration of water into that cap, so that way none of the waste would migrate or move around in the future.
Hills, this hole is 4 to 5 feet. I was there today. It's 4 to 5 feet. You gotta drive down into this pole. And all the hills from Cumberland and the hills from North Attleboro come down into that bowl, so all the rain always just funnels right down there. So you're telling me you're gonna start digging in that bowl and you're gonna be able to control another
No,
flood
so we're-
when it comes flowing down the hill? Because I've worked for Waltz for 38 years, and a little bale of hay or those wattles they use now will not stop the force of water that if you start digging everything up.
So you're talking about surface water. This is groundwater. The cap has me nervous. I don't understand. Is there a map showing me where this cap is going?
Yeah, so,
Because you're not capping this whole, you can't cap this whole thing off because you couldn't build anything there, right? Is
no,
that correct?
no, it is. So it's an impermeable cap.
That's the only area for the cap.
Correct. So the area that depression,
We don't know yet. So you don't have a map of the cap yet.
Ballpark could be around
we've got, there
Number
should,
one. Number
there is,
two, are we
hold
push-
on,
hold on.
Hold on. There is a figure that shows the
Map of the cap?
profile.
So can I request a map of the cap,
No, hold on.
please, for next meeting? Is that, no?
Sir, there it is.
Just a minute, please. Let's,
You're making plans right here, and you're spending taxpayers' money, because I know this is not all coming for free. Somebody's paying for this.
yeah, the EPA is.
EPA, so my money goes to the EPA tax money, just like everyone else's.
Would you
money
rather
goes.
have us not spend it and then you live with this junk for the rest of your life?
I've been there for 35 years, this hasn't bothered me one bit.
Can you just, like, you're like 72 acres, okay. How big is the fenced-in area? Can you
That,
give
yeah,
me a number for
that's approximately 2,000 square feet.
2,000 square feet? Okay.
Yes.
Double
So,
the
like-
size of this room.
Right, so like, not even a house lot, because that's a 15,000 square
Right.
feet, right? So, like, when you look at it and you're trying to say, because I'm looking at all the blow-ups of the pictures that I have, and I'm flipping back in pages, and I'm like, all right, so, am I talking about a raisin? Or am I talking about, so I just wanted to put in perspective
No,
for
that's
me
good.
that, like, so 72 acres is the entire site, and this is a raisin.
Yep, big reason. Great.
Thanks, Don.
Not a great analogy,
That's-
but like.
No, but that was good. That's a good question.
Actually, if
Please stay off of that site.
I just have to disagree with that comment. My kids have played out in that land for I've been living there 35 years. You know the kids have played out there? Every kid's played out in that lot for 35 years. They had glowing heads on them.
I don't know what about this data you don't believe, but it's empirical and it was gathered by the best engineers we could find.
Saying the contamination is mainly in Rhode Island, and you're going to do this cap, and the contamination could come back over, why are we wasting all this money?
Because initially, when we saw, and especially that layer of oil in the groundwater, the concern wasn't so much initially that it was the buried debris.
Yeah.
So since then, as we've continued to monitor the groundwater, we're not even seeing that LNAPL. So that's a good thing. Sure. So the question, could there be an ongoing source of contamination to that lagoon in the future? Not based upon what we're seeing, no.
Before we do close out, though, again, I do appreciate y'all coming out, but I also want to say that worked in a few different places, and I have to say that truthfully, the staff and the people that we work here in the town are probably the best bunch of professionals I've ever worked with in my life. So I'd like to say personally thank you to Lyle Perry, Gil Hilario, Tracy Costa, Chris Sweet, and Mark Holloway for coming out tonight.
The North Attleboro Town Council unanimously approved the tax rate for the new calendar year during their meeting Monday night at the Woodcock School Administration Building. The tax burden will shift slightly from residences to businesses in an effort to keep increases relatively the same for all. North TV spoke with Town Manager Michael Borg on Wednesday to get all of the details.
All right, so the town council voted for a CIP shift and residential factor. So we consider that every year as a part of the budget process. And what we're looking at is if we're going to apply a shift, and the town historically in the past has, shifting tax burden away from residents onto the commercial, industrial, and personal property. And so what they voted for was a shift of 1.28 and a residential factor of 0.9545. That shift means that they are going to pay less taxes than they would have if the council had voted the same shift last year. The last year shift was 1.17, right? So when we calculated and we provided information to the council, we showed them exactly how this would relate to what they paid last year. If they'd kept it the same, it would have been a $344 increase. Because the shift went a little deeper and went to 1.28, right, their tax bill will be just a little bit over $200 this year. So a savings of about $144 if they had maintained the same shift from last year. This was a huge shift for the town council to make. It was 11 points on the scale. They had not done a shift that significant since I've been here, and the result was equivalent to $1.25 million that the taxpayers of residences won't have to pay. They got shifted to the commercial and industrial personal property lines. So much like the free cash discussion that they had, this was equivalent by shifting it that far down to $1.25 million in cash in favor of the residents here in North Attleboro.
So take me through this again. So what is the rate per $1,000 of value on, say, a single or multifamily home?
Under the new rate, it'll be $11.56, right? And that was as of the calculation that I had talked with the assessors and the town accountant today. So it's a decrease. But remember, home values have increased, right? We saw a significant increase in the value of our residential properties. Went up 13.8% across the board. So with that, the commercial and industrial property base had only marginal increases. So most of the gain in value went on the residential side. So they saw a larger proportion of that in the tax. When we do that shift, it's kind of leveling it between the two and making it on par. So you'll see comments that you might have heard in the town council meeting where, hey, this makes it equal, that the residences and the businesses are shouldering about the same amount of increase, right, as they had from last year. So that was a very, very strong signal from the town council to support both residents and businesses alike here in North Attleboro.
Was there any thought given to use some of the $5+ million in free cash to help offset that rise even more? And do you know of any municipalities that do that?
It's a tool that's available to municipalities. I don't know any offhand that have recently used that, right? But it is something that's available. And if you have the free cash, right, and we had $5.5 million certified from it, and it came from a number of sources that provided that. And that's generally right in line with the guidance that the Commonwealth puts out about where, free cash should come back to, right about 5% for us. And it was an opportunity for us to take a look at, potentially give some back into the levy and help the taxpayer. But that $1 million debate was a good debate that happened in the Finance Committee as well as on the council meeting for the tax setting. But at the end of the day, right, when they decided to move from 1.17 to a 1.28, it was equivalent. It was greater than that $1 million of free cash. It comes to $1.25 million. So the council saw the value in that, keeping those rates, but it's a tool that they have to be able to say, okay, we're not going to let things rapidly climb out of control. And so it was a great move by the council.
There was a different approach to voting on tax classification this year. In the past, the assessors would make their presentation, and later on in the same meeting, the town council would vote on the tax rate. This year was a little bit different. Do you think it worked?
No, absolutely. And look, kudos to the council president, right? Because we've worked this a couple times, and previously we had gone with the public hearing, right? And then put the decision in front of the council and had the Board of Assessors there and say, what's your vote? But the council president, in his wisdom said, hey, look, this is an important decision, right? Let's take 2 meetings and split it up. Let's have the information so the counselors can respond to it, right? Ask questions and have more of an informed opinion prior to the vote. So working through the schedule, we set up a meeting, brought in the information, talked through everything that might pertain, and then reached out to all the counselors and said, hey, look, come talk to the assessor and myself if you have any questions, how we can answer it. This is an important vote, probably one of the most important votes that you'll take in the year that will directly impact every resident and business here in town. So the more information you want or need, we're going to provide it for you and help you make that informed decision. So fully support that. I'm positive we're going to do that again in the next year and split it up and make sure that every counselor has the opportunity to look at. And we answered questions on scenarios of different, tax situations. If we took free cash, if we didn't take free cash, if we pushed the rate to here, if we did the commercial exemption or not do the commercial exemption, and even looked at a residential exemption where you had owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied properties that we could do a slight shift in. So great debates, much more discussion. I think it's a win for North Attleboro. We come out at the end of this with the lowest personal property, the lowest industrial, the lowest commercial, and most importantly, the lowest residential tax rate of all the communities around us.
A 40B development in North Attleboro was on the agenda when the planning board met Thursday night in the DPW's meeting room. The proposal by the Loberser companies is separate from the 40R housing proposed at the site of the Styx Fun Center on Kelly Boulevard. That, of course, is on the North Attleboro and Plainville line.
We're a real estate development company that has served Central Mass and Eastern Massachusetts for over 27 years. We've been creating successful real estate developments in Upton, Milford, Bellingham, Hopkinton, Franklin, Lakeville, Sudbury, Oxford, Medway, and recently Douglas. We're north of the I-295 on-ramp, and our abutters to the left and the right of the property consist of the medical office building to the west and the CarMax to the east. Across the street from our property is a residential neighborhood, as that picture shows. We feel like the 150 Draper Ave is a great location for a quality rental housing development, given its location in a strong, well-managed, and active community. It has excellent highway access, it has proximity to nearby retail amenities, and not to mention it's adjacent to the North Attleboro Medical Center. We also have electricity, town water, town sewer, which is available in Draper Ave, and the GATRA bus service is also available on South Washington Street. There is a total of 40 rental units, 4 studio one-bedroom units, 20 one-bedroom, one-bathroom units. There is 12 two-bedroom, two-bathroom units, and 4 three-bedroom, two-bathroom units. 10 of the 40 units are under the Chapter 40B affordable units. We will be, our affordable unit component will be that of the 80% area median income. So this is not any kind of subsidized housing. All 40 units will help North Attleboro increase its subsidized housing inventory. I'm sure the board is familiar with that. So even though 25% are affordable, because it's rental, all 40 go towards the subsidized housing inventory for the town. 150 Draper Ave will be a 4-story flat roof building on 1.47 acres. All units will have elevator access. By design, the building will be attractive to seniors, empty nesters, young professionals, and residents requiring accessible units.
So we have the existing lot in red. It's basically 1.47 acres. We do have an existing structure in the middle with an existing garage on this side here, and then the driveway runs in this way. For pedestrian access, we have sidewalks around the building. We also have a sidewalk out to the grill play area and grill area in this area back here. We have a walk that goes across this drive with a crosswalk. Then we have a sidewalk that goes up to Draper, and then we have another crosswalk that will tie into the existing sidewalk that looks like it was recently put in, and you have access to Route 1 going this way.
We wanted to just show, look at the building, what we're proposing for the building. Obviously, you can see that it's a 4-story building, flat roof style. It's a combination. We've got this is all thin stone, so there's various areas that have thin stone. That darker brown color there and in that area, that's going to be a shake style siding. And then all of that lighter colored siding is a standard clapboard type of siding. So this is the first floor of the building. This is just highlighting that this is the gym area. Up here is the management office. You can see that area there, and in the building, here's the elevator, so the elevator is very central to all floors. Again, there's the elevator, here's your common hallway, set of stairs that brings you back down to the main entrance, and this is the community room. Our community rooms tend to be very active because we are actively managing our buildings. We do provide a lot of services as far as doing things like card nights, bingo nights, just special games, and it's pretty cool because it's good for everybody because we tend to have tenants that stay for a long time because they end up feeling like family. Just a sample of what our interiors would look like. So 9-foot ceilings, solid surface, flooring, carpet in the bedrooms, full-blown regular residential kitchens. These are not like a bunch of cheapy, just shelf type of stuff. Granite, quartz countertops, large windows, very nice cottage-style casing, baseboard. So very high level. I think because of my background being a lot of building for sale, I tend to build my apartments that would look more like a condominium versus an apartment.
Water was on the agenda when the Plainville Select Board met Monday night at Town Hall. The lack of treated water has been an issue for the town for a number of years. DPW Superintendent Dennis Morton provided an update on wells and treatment plants during the portion of the meeting set aside for old business.
The well project, we expect that the monitoring wells will be completed by December 27th. The pump duration test is expected to be completed in the first quarter of 2024. Beta and DEP will review, evaluate the results. I'm pretty optimistic that our flow projections will be where they need to be, and there won't be any effect on Turnpike Lake. We expect the results back from DEP sometime the first quarter of 24.
Behind where we want to be, but we just need to keep pushing. And at least the good news is that we haven't hit any roadblocks yet with the monitoring wells, with any of the other work that's going on. But if we need to find ways to keep the gas pedal down.
I've been pretty much contacting them twice a week. They're saying, where are we? Where are we?
Okay.
And we're waiting for the driller to free up from some other jobs that he's been tied up on.
Yep.
The rains that we've had and the weather hasn't helped.
The treatment plant.
Treatment plant? The detailed design and cost updating is well underway. We've pretty much completed our 25% design. We'll be presenting a final design project, including schedule, to the board as soon as possible when the work is completed. I'm meeting with Bob Mackey tomorrow, and we'll have a more definitive timeline and schedule for the board at a future meeting.
I am really still confused about what happened to what the original plan was to go to a special town meeting to request funding.
There wasn't really a need to ask for the money now. Okay. We're probably not going to be looking for it until August. So no.
So the delay was the changing criteria for PFAS.
Okay.
So we're not going to build a plan until they tell us how to treat it. They couldn't tell us how to treat it, but they told us we had to treat it.
Okay.
So that took them a little while. When we submitted a proposal, took a little while for them to come back and say yes. And then literally 2 days after they said yes, they said, hold on a minute. We finally have an approved method. And but the delay was not so much ours as their indecision on how they wanted us to treat PFAS.
So anyway, I would like, I'm in hopes that design and schedule, we can present that whole thing in January.
Yeah, we're on our way, and it's not going to take long to get to 75%.
Right.
We've had meetings with the architects, with Beta about equipment, and so we're pushing forward.
Okay.
And it's progressing.
So are we expecting that cost estimate that came with that last presentation will be changing?
I hope so. Just with the construction industry the way it is these days, it's hard to tell until we get in and actually start to ask for numbers.
Okay, because there was a number, right?
Yes, there was.
Yes, it was a big number.
Yeah, it was a big number.
So you're expecting it to change?
I do.
Okay.
I don't want to speculate
Okay.
there. I don't know at this point.
Okay.
I think we very deliberately took the most, excuse me, I shouldn't say we. I think Beta very deliberately took the most conservative cost estimate they could, both to take into account how much construction costs had risen, but also to make sure that when we apply for reimbursements of different things, we get the maximum reimbursements we can.
Okay.
Let's plan for a more informative update.
Meet with him tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.